we've got Bill Fitzgerald. You need to hear the stories that Bill tells about growing up in Brooklyn and being a Dodger fan or a Mets fan, I guess, later on. But back in the day, it was Dodgers, and then also being a New York Jet fan. Bill is just turned 100, and so the fact that he's got memories that none of us obviously have is incredible. But the memory to recall them and everything else, I can't remember 2 weeks ago. And so just wanted to sit down and share some of those stories with you guys and everybody else.
They're having tryouts, and he said that we won't be bothered by trying to make the team, but we can kill a Saturday morning by running around in the outfield and so forth. And we did. The coach who was running the tryouts was a man by the name of Watson Clark, a 20-game winner with the Dodgers in the 1920s. So I'm fooling around in the infield, and he says, "Hey kid, pick up the ball when they throw it in and put it in the coach's bag. And when the last guy is up, he hits a foul ball off the end of his bat, and it's going over towards the Brooklyn dugout. And for some reason or other, I chase it. And right in front of the dugout, I make the catch. And Watson Clark says, "Hey kid, grab a bat." So I grab a bat, and Watson Clark pitches to me, and nothing happens. And he says, "Do you want to see a double-headed today? We're not swimming in money." So I said, "Sure." And he said, "Pick any seat in the house
Holy cow.
that you want. And if anybody complains, tell them to come and see me."
Wow.
And so I caught a foul ball in front of the Dodger dugout, got 2 games for nothing, and I'm sitting behind the Dodger dugout in section 10, and it didn't cost me a dime.
How about?
What year was that?
1936.
And now Ebbets Field, Shrine of Flatbush.
I was first introduced to Ebbets Field in 1929.
What did you think about Ebbets Field when you first saw it?
Oh, I loved it. There was one area that you broke your heart. The fence was concrete, and if a ball was going back against the fence or over the fence, you'd be like this. Your feet would be out here and your head would be back here.
In the stands?
Right. There was no straight up. It was 20 feet concrete with advertisement on it. And then you had a 20-foot wire fence, all told, to hit a home run out of there, you had to drive the ball 40 foot in the air to clear the fence and the wall. The way the concrete fence was made, it came down and then it sloped out. So an outfielder trying to field that ball would have to lean back and hope for the best.
The Polo Grounds, New York, home of the old Giants and a shrine to such legendary...
You want to hear a little story about not the Jets in a way. The Polo Grounds had been vacated by the New York Giants, both the baseball and football. And they moved a team which was coached then by Sammy Bohr into the Polo Grounds. Well, the Polo Grounds were falling apart. I mean that literally falling apart.
To pieces.
The restrooms were leaking and what have you. And you had a ballpark that sat 70,000 people, and you were sitting watching the Titans as they were called at the time, and maybe there was 3,000 people in the whole place. The stadium was empty. So I'm sitting there on the 40-yard line watching a game.
Was this the Jets? You were watching the Jets, or was it the Titans?
No, this is the Titans. I'm sitting there watching a game, and a guy in a suit stops me, and there's nobody around me. And he says, "Do you want to buy Jet tickets?" He said, "They'll open at Shea Stadium, the new stadium, next season." And I said to him, "What can I get?" And he says, "Any seat in the house." That's the God's honest truth. I picked 4 seats, 7 games, a 7-game season, right? And I got 4 tickets. They're $5 a piece.
$5.
Right. And so each one of them is $35. That's what?
140.
71.40 for 4 tickets.
Good Lord.
I got them on the 40-yard line, and I'm looking down at the play. I held on to those tickets until I came to Texas. I gave them to my nephew. But
Wow.
that was a steal, man.
Sure was.
That's you can barely buy a Coke for $5 now.
Oh man,
Everything's expensive.
you couldn't touch them today.
The Jets are a point after away from taking the lead.
When the Jets were coming into being in 1963. They opened at Shea Stadium, which was brand new, and their owner was Sonny Werblin, head of Music Corporation of America, and other big-time investors, you know. And they had a plan. They were going along for the first season with a journeyman quarterback, but they were looking at Namath at Alabama at the time, and they signed him for something like $400,000 or something like, which was big money in those days. But you fellas may not know this, but Namath's teammates got him aside and told him, you gotta lay off the women and get some sleep because you're costing us games.
He wasn't focused, was he? He was out partying all the time.
Yeah.
What they call him, Broadway Joe?
Yeah.
With his fur coat.
You told me stories about being a kid growing up in Brooklyn. Talk about how you got in the games. You didn't have any money. How'd you get in some of those games? What did y'all do to get in the games?
These, you know, it was during the Depression. That thing ran from the time you were 7 years of age until you went into the army. So they'd have games during the week where they didn't need all of the space. So there'd be a large lineup of kids wearing khaki pants or have a blue ticket or something like that. And you'd walk by the group as they were lining up to go in to see the game. And if it was a blue ticket, you'd look for a blue ticket on the street, and you'd grab the blue ticket in your hand, and once those gates were open, everybody was running. So there was no inspection of the blue tickets. So you got in to see a game for nothing. If it was the Boy Scouts, you went home and you looked for a pair of khaki pants or something like that. And if you had them, you went back to Ebbets Field and waited till they opened the gate, and then went in with the crowd.
Snuck in with the Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
to blend
right, right.
And the fans will never forget the sight of Jackie Robinson hurrying for the plate.
I'm dying to ask you this. What was it like watching Jackie Robinson?
Oh,
The first time you saw him, what did you think?
the first time I saw him, I didn't think Robinson was going to make it. But Ricky was smart enough. He had a guy named an old catcher, trailing Robinson in Montreal or wherever he was playing. And the guy would correct whatever he was doing wrong. And I'm there in the first game when Robinson is playing, and he's lunging at the ball. He's a right-hand hitter, and he's lunging at the ball. I said to myself, this kid is not going to make it. But the old catcher saw the same thing I did, and he corrected that. And after that, Robinson was okay. You know?
You were at the first game. You said you were at the
Yes,
first game Jackie
yes.
Robinson played.
Right. I was also at the first night game.
Wow.
And in June 15th,
Wow.
1938.
A no-hit, no-run game. Rose with a line drive to Vukovic.
You know, the first night game in Ebbets, and it was a big occasion. And Johnny Vandermeer is pitching for Cincinnati, and he pitches his second no-hitter that night. He had pitched a no-hitter up in Boston on the 11th of June, 1938, and he comes down to Brooklyn 4 days later, and he throws another one.
And you saw it.
Right.
And you saw
right.
it. And it was the first night game ever, and he throws
Right.
a no-hitter
Back-to-back no-hitters.
4 days apart.
The other no-hitter I saw was Dizzy Dean's brother.
Oh, Dizzy.
Pitched a no-hitter against the Dodgers in 1934.
Wow.
That year, Dizzy and his brother, they called him Daffy, you know.
Daffy Dean.
Dean. They won 45 games between the two of them. I'm sitting in Ebbetsfield, and Dizzy Dean throws a one-hitter against the Dodgers, the opening game. Daffy Dean comes on, and he throws a no-hitter against the Dodgers that day. And Dizzy Dean, after the game interview, said, if I knew my brother was going to throw a no-hitter, I would have thrown one too. The following year, 1935, the Dean brothers asked for a $2,000 raise. I think they went on strike. They won 45 games between them and got into the World Series with the Cardinals. And Ricky would not give them a $2,000 raise. But I've seen some great football players. Ace Parker is probably the best all-around football player I've ever seen. He could do anything. Running back a kick 130 yards still stands with Duke University, even though it was done in the 1930s. And it was done by Ace Parker. that this man could do. Pass, run, play defense, kick, a place kick. Didn't mean a damn thing. He could do it all. I saw him intercept a pass and run it back for a touchdown against an all-star team for a talented guy playing football. That was a standout watching this man play. I've seen a lot of good football players, but nothing like this man. And he was only 169 pounds. They had him down at 175, but he was, not only did he play defense and offense, but he did it with his brace on his leg.
Oh, wow.
And I had a picture of that where he's sitting on a training table. He broke his leg playing for the Philadelphia Athletics. He was a all-around athlete, baseball, football, you know.
You've lived a very full and exciting life. What role has sports played for you?
It gave me a certain discipline. You find out in life that there is certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. And as long as you don't buck the tide, you gotta know what your limits are. I can't go in against a 200-pounder and think I'm gonna win, because he can drown me, you know. But you gotta stay within your ability.
You ever sneak in a game?
No, I don't think I can't recall ever sneaking into. I got in with the crowd, you know.
You just went through the main gate then. You didn't
Huh?
sneak. You didn't sneak in anything. You just went right through the main gate.
Yeah. You know, when we were kids, there was damn few cars on the road. See, the ball players would walk from the subway at Eastern Parkway down to Ebbets Field, and we'd get in their way, so to speak, and had the book full of signatures of ball players. You know, Dizzy Dean, Al Lopez, didn't make any difference.
Where's that notebook these days?
I'm standing on the corner of Sullivan Place in front of the rotunda. A taxi pulls up and a black guy gets out and he's wearing a tan cobra cloth suit and he's smoking a big cigar. It's Roy Campanella.
Wow. Coach Flanagan doesn't know who that is.
Yeah.
Waiting is Jones, the Mets are the world champions.
I watched the original Mets with Seaver and
The Miracle Mets,
Guzman and
1965.
Right.
You saw that?
I watched the World Series, yes, that year. They Swoboda and Agee, and I was surprised that what happened with the manager. What the kid that was the first baseman, who was an ex-Marine, they used to say he could kill you with his hand.
I was looking up. So there's a guy named Gil Hodges. Was the first.
Yeah,
baseman, too.
that's the guy.
Yes.
I saw something that I had never seen before. They had a left fielder who was hitting 340, and that's the God's honest truth. And he didn't hustle. And Hodges came out of the dugout, held up his hand, and walked out to left field. This is the God's honest truth. He walked out to left field, put his arm around the left fielder's shoulder, and walked him back to the dugout and put somebody else there. I never saw that before. I've seen managers take guys out and what have you, but I never saw a manager slowly walk out, wrap his arm around the guy's shoulder, and walk him back to the dugout. That guy that was hitting 340 never forgot that. You know.
Did you like Yogi Berra as a manager, as a coach?
Oh, I didn't think about that, you know. But I stood alongside a Scooter Rizzuto in the rotunda on a Friday. They were playing an exhibition game against the Dodgers, and Rizzuto and Yogi Berra. It was the first time I'd seen Yogi. It was his rookie year. They were talking to people that they knew, and
it's a slow curve low, and the Babe swings. It's a long one going out toward right center.
I saw Babe Ruth.
Oh, hold on. Now we're bringing out the big guys. Okay.
And Babe was let go by the Yankees, and he signed with the Braves, and then came over to the Dodgers as a coach. I can still see the Babe. He had a twist when he was meeting the ball, and it just took off.
Babe Ruth managed the Dodgers?
He was a coach.
Babe Ruth was a coach for the Dodgers?
No, he wanted to manage some team. They had him as a third base coach, but he wanted to manage his job, and he couldn't get it in Brooklyn. The story goes that when they were both with the Yankees, Ruth and DeRocher stole a wallet that belonged to Ruth. That's what the story was. And I figured if that was true, DeRocher is managing the Dodgers, and he's got Ruth as a third base coach, and Ruth wants to manage. He's never going to get it as long as DeRocher is there. See? And DeRocher used to tell a story. There was no place to park for ball players with cars. And DeRocher was married to Lorraine Day, the movie actress. And the downtown Brooklyn, the hotels were not sharp enough for DeRocher, see. So after a game, he'd drive up along Bedford Avenue and drive into Long Island City, and then take the Triborough Bridge over to 59th Street in New York. And he and his wife would be home free. So he used to tell a story. He said, you'd be driving along Bedford Avenue and stop for a light, and some guy would step out of a saloon and say, hey, Leo, how do we do today? And Leo would say, thumbs up, we won. Atta baby, The next day, you'd be driving the same thing, and some guy would step out of a bar. How we do today, Leo? We lost. Oh, you bum here. Yeah. It was a great time. It was fun to watch baseball in Brooklyn at that time.
Stick-on baseball is a team.
Were y'all playing stickball?
I was going to ask.
Were you playing stickball?
Oh, stickball, yes.
Is that what you were playing?
Yeah.
Did everyone have a glove?
The guys playing stickball or punchball, you used your hands. There wasn't any gloves,
What is punch ball?
Punchball, you threw the ball up in the air and punched it. And some of these guys became very proficient at
punching.
You had rules. You had to hit the ball beyond third base and before it went up on the sidewalk or whatever. You played the game with cars coming at you, or
dodging the cars.
It's a car.
Yeah.
Time out. Car's coming.
3 times in his sensational career has Sandy Koufax walked out.
I had a look a while ago. I didn't know what year the Brooklyn Dodgers left. It said they left in 1957.
That's possible.
So that means you got to see Sandy Koufax?
Yes. But Sandy was a big kid. He was a big kid. But he didn't show the Sandy Koufax that you saw with the Dodgers in Los Angeles. in those days, you would see Koufax throw 4 innings, and it was lights out. And then they'd start to, the opposition would tattoo the right field wall. He'd lose that curve.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a big kid with a fastball, but when he learned to throw the curveball, it changed it completely.
They said he had a fastball and a curveball, and that was it, pretty much.
Yeah,
Fastball and a curveball. And like you said, he really didn't perfect his curveball until he went to Los Angeles. That's
Yeah,
what I was reading.
right.
So y'all got to see the young Koufax just threw really, really hard until they started tattooing it.
Yeah, he was a big kid. You'd see him in the outfield before a game, shagging flies and what have you.
Is a long way from the locker rooms. In the second game, a team of Northwestern Wildcats is matched against St. John's University of...
You guys are familiar with basketball, right? My dad and I, shortly after the war, we take a kid, we take him to Evansville at night, and I was able to get Cookie Lavaghetto, and we talked with this young kid. He was about 15 at the time, and a very good basketball player. And to make a long story short, he's playing for his school. The coach at St. John's University is transferring to North Carolina. So he stops down at my aunt's home and he recruits this kid. Well, in the NCAA finals, Will Chamberlain is starring for, what is it, the University of Kansas or whatever it is. And this kid beats Chamberlain's team by sinking a foul shot at the closing moments of the game.
Wow.
And we had him, my father and I had him talking to Lavaghetto that night at a baseball game in
Wow.
Evansville.
What college was it that he played for when he beat Chamberlain?
Oh, North Carolina.
North Carolina. That's right. He was moving to North Carolina. That's right.
Yeah.
He was coming from
the coach of St. John's,
St. John,
Frank McGuire, recruited him at his aunt's or his grandmother's that night.
Wow.
And Frank had been very successful with St. John's, and he was worried about his son growing up in the New York atmosphere.
Gotcha.
And he accepted the job at North Carolina for the benefit of his son.
Wow.
And he got Kearns and Brennan and another guy from the local area, you know, all Eastern kids.
Tommy Kearns was that kid's name. Was the guy who made the free throws. Said he made free throws to put him ahead. Tommy Kearns.
Yeah. I think he came from Jersey.
He was a little 5'11", guard. Said he made free throws, and they said at that time Wilt Chamberlain was 7 foot.
Yeah.
Giant killer.
Bring you Home Run Derby, where each week the leading home run hitter.
Ruth, if I'm not mistaken, had 90 wins as a pitcher.
Mm-hmm. Some people said he was a better pitcher than a hitter when he first came in.
Might be. I think he made his reputation against some ball club in 1916, but he was a winning pitcher before he was considered a great hitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, Hank Wilson of the Chicago Cubs tied Ruth for the home run derby, but it was erased because it rained.
Really?
Yeah. Wilson hit 60 home runs as a Chicago Cubs, and it would have tied Babe Ruth's record, but the game got rained out.
Bill, you're going to have an impact on a lot of other people that listen to this, and so thank you very much. We appreciate you spending some time, and the stories are absolutely incredible.